would prove fatal. Returning to Tesla after a time, Morgan informed Tesla that he had succeeded in monopolizing the industries which produced power lines and cable. Without him now, there would be no way for Tesla to export electrical power to his customers. Tesla calmly informed Morgan that a means had already been found to eliminate the need for power line technology, and Morgan laughed at what he believed was a simple whimpering bluff. Finally, Tesla was infuriated. His dream of flooding the world with light, comfort, and equality would not be stopped by pseudo-aristocratic thugs. The truth was that Tesla had already made an accidental observation which completely separated him from polyphase and conventional electric science forever. The year was 1891. The abrupt interruption of a high-voltage DC arc was felt by Tesla as a stinging shock, though several feet from the working system. He examined this phenomenon with greatest interest. Electrostatically induced rays were found to be the cause. The light-like rays were strong and penetrating, possessed of mysterious characteristics. Joseph Henry first observed these rays in 1842. Elihu Thomson later accidentally generated them in 1872. These piercing rays differed from the weak electromagnetic waves which Maxwell had predicted. Heinrich Hertz had not generated them. Tesla conceived of a system by which electrical power could be broadcast directly through the air, one which required no power lines at all. Accepting an invitation by Sir William Crookes to address the Royal Society of London, Tesla demonstrated this phenomena in 1892. The new and astounding discovery of electrical rays sped throughout the financial world. Upon hearing of these announcements through technological advisors, Morgan was outraged. His large investments in the technology of power lines had been eradicated in a single stroke of Teslean genius. Having returned from his triumphant European lecture tour, Tesla undertook the construction of special new generators and large transformers. These produced the non-alternating impulses capable of radiating electric rays through space. Tesla's new announced broadcast power system would ruin Morgan's monopolistic plans. This rare examination of interior spaces near the South Fifth Avenue laboratory reveals the scale in which Tesla conducted this research, a scale now considered gargantuan to all but military researchers. What began as a gentleman's duel would end in disaster for Tesla. Tesla now found himself in a network of Morgan's shadowy intrigues. Morgan's audacious forays were further complicated by the steely tenacity of his own daughter Anne, who refused to depart from pursuing Tesla at every turn. Anne Morgan's brooding fascination with the dark millionaire grew into passions and obsessions, which later proved deadly. Tesla had been known to work through the early morning hours in upper laboratory floors. Was it only chance one night which led him out of the building to enjoy an early and prolonged dinner at Delmonico's? Shortly after midnight on March the 13th, 1895, Tesla was interrupted at 2:30 a.m. by his frantic technical assistant, Cole Mangito. The wonderful South Fifth Avenue laboratory was on fire. Explosion after explosion rocked the fashionable district as laboratory floors fell one upon another. The entire structure was reduced to a smoking amalgam in a short time, the obvious work of hired saboteurs. Tesla stood alone and for a time devastated. The fire, a foiled death attempt, had consumed everything of value which he had cherished. The entire armada comprising his ray technology had been wiped away in an instant. Most of his money had been placed in this new technology. Tesla wandered off shortly after sunrise amid the swirling ashes and could not be located by worried friends or associates for days. Fire burns dross. Untold transformations took place in his mind and heart. Tesla returned with a firm resolve to establish a new and subversive regime of power, one which would effectively burn away all memory of his own polyphase technology. With what funds he had yet retained, Tesla announced the opening of his third great laboratory at 46 East Houston Street, this the probable site. Morgan was shocked to hear that he was still alive. Tesla publicly requested funds from Morgan, quote, that great visionary financier, unquote. Morgan, fearing public accusations of involvement in the laboratory fire, publicly yielded a sizable sum to Tesla. Tesla's reprisals would be far more complete than Morgan could ever imagine. His worldwide plan would rock the financial world in ways it could not yet appreciate. Electric ray technology was completely new, an alien thing to those of his own time period. Tesla made numerous press releases concerning his newest perspectives on ray power and ray power transmission. Performed in these halls, each demonstration proved his world-revolutionizing concepts in power technology. Impulse ray beams, wirelessly ran motors, heated rooms, and flooded lamps with brilliant light, a feat which Sir Oliver Lodge was never able to achieve with high-frequency harmonic alternations. Impulses were the key, a fact which his academic rivals had failed to recognize. Tesla played the American dynastic beasts, their government servants, the academicians, and the press with the finesse of a master. When he permitted a social interlude from his labors, he was drawn only to very select members of the more cultured New York social scene. No longer fascinated by the superficial opulence of the Fashion 400, Tesla remained among those families with whom he could share something of his mind and hopes, his dreams and desires. Ever seeking his escapes from the now congested South Fifth Avenue metropolis, Tesla found rest and inspiration only among the northernmost city estates. His dreams envisioned a world of flying machines and glowing towers, transcontinental travel, and limitless free power. These once Metro-North row houses were the backdrop of Tesla's friendships, dreams, achievements, and social meetings. Their gardens and forested roads led away in twisting paths toward the northern hills and mountains which he loved. These homes are yet filled with a deep and numinous atmosphere, a lingering reminder of the warm people who once graced them. There had been a long romantic interlude which completely occupied and comforted much of Tesla's lonely existence. It was a sad and distant love affair, intensely complicated by the fact that the woman he dearly loved was the wife of his friend Robert Johnson. Their affectionate handwritten salutations were once passed by private couriers up to 8 times daily between the two, an excess even for those Victorian times. Tesla resolved to put this affair away, bringing the entire romance to an abrupt and devastating halt for Catherine. He now withdrew from frivolity with an uncharacteristic and necessary callousness. He wished to lead an unfettered life, one whose sole purpose would be to bring about a long-awaited world mind revolution. A more structured European pose now permeated his being. It was a resolve which later became an obsessive demand and a social impediment. Tesla knew that Morgan failed to recognize the power which men such as Edison and himself concentrated. The visions, the dreams, the ideas, these were the first source of power, the metaphysical secret behind the physical technologies. The metropolis was again growing to the north. It was a renewed interest in space, skyward space, which drove him away from the old city center. It was time to move onward, northward. Hotels. Tesla loved hotels. A tower penthouse was his goal. A new and fashionable style of hotel and apartment complexes were springing up all along Fifth Avenue as the avenue moved north. Hoping to merit a place in the famed Waldorf Astoria, he was compelled to choose several less merited hotels with care. A permanent apartment in the Waldorf would grant him access to the more adventurous and youthful financiers which began to emerge. Visibility was the key. Maintaining his distance from the Edison conglomerate at 65 Fifth Avenue, he chose his habitations with the care of a spy. Here in the northern city reaches of that time were new windows on the future. Here was a measure of both security, comfort, seclusion, serenity, and peace. This brick edifice was the place he avoided, the Edison conglomerate. Although he never lacked for company, Tesla chose new seclusions. There was a steady supply of socialites intrigued with meeting him. On this he could rely in times of inner desperation, a desperation which he veiled in a myriad of ways. All were naive to this game, save the one who continued to love him and seek him out. Catherine pleaded that he respond to her more overt and prolific messages, but he did not. Visions. He collected and cherished only the visions of his worldwide system now. Visions could not be destroyed by fire, time, or sorrow. Visions would not die, like his love unrequited. Visions once received would grow into the world like strong tree roots. On his long daily walks through quiet, brownstone-lined streets such as these, his mind once again opened in future visions. Flying platforms, aerial ships, luxury ocean liners, undersea vessels, towers reaching the clouds, signal beacons between the planets, healing rays, all the wonders which his broadcast power system would achieve for belabored humanity on a worldwide basis. The century was turning, and his world had now turned. Ever withdrawn into north metropolitan forested seclusions, Tesla began setting his sights on the new world which his visions revealed. Here and now was space, unlimited space, and all the potentials which space afforded. Space into which his dreams and visions could find paths to wander, grow, entwine, and bear fruit. Here was time. Yes, above all, here was time. The serenity of the Swan Lake was interrupted by the machinations of a stranger who navigated tub-shaped boats through its foggy waters in the late afternoons. His tall, bedecked appearance surmounted by the inimicable top hat, was poised before a podium-like control device. From it protruded a glass globe filled with a smooth white light. At his commands, the submersible boat rippled effortlessly through the smooth waters. Remote-controlled boats before the turn of the century. Rarely described by Tesla's biographers are his experiments in Central Park. They form the heart of Teslian research in electrical power transmission. Tesla used the lakes and grounds of what is now Manhattan Central Park for his first large-scale experiments in broadcast power. Ground connections, water connections, open meadows, and open skies, unlimited space within reach of his own laboratory. He could not have hoped for a more perfect circumstance. Tesla's portable transmitters and receivers were delivered from his Houston Street laboratory and set up in these north fields and meadows. His high-voltage interrupters were energized by petrol-driven generators. Balloons were sent aloft, carrying high-voltage impulses into clouds. He conducted many of these experiments at night. Tesla and his assistants watched as the continually expanding sheets of white corona covered his aerials. Described in wireless power transmission patents, Tesla speaks of coronas which continually expand until their radiance floods an area with visible light. Tesla scouted out city northlands where he could safely perform his new energy transmission experiments. Nathan Stubblefield once conducted his vocal radio transmissions in these very same rocky meadows. Tesla observed interactions of his transmitters with weather patterns, dispersing thick fog. Morgan had underestimated the power of Tesla's genius in developing monopoly destabilizing technologies. Through these patent armadas, Tesla continually delivered the hard message of defeat to Morgan. In 1897, Tesla gave a series of lectures at the New York Academy of Sciences, not far from this location. Few New York academes could follow what they later referred to as Tesla's convoluted and fragmented speech on impulses and rays. He was always aware that his audience included analysts who worked on behalf of financiers like Morgan, and he always enjoyed toying with their minds. In certain periodicals, Tesla announced that he had observed anomalous energy effects in his demonstration spaces. He found it possible to draw usable power from his demonstration space up to an hour after his transmitters had been deactivated. These anomalous effects were especially powerful when his transformers were grounded. Tesla discovered strangely increased power outputs when the ground-applied impulses were of both fixed polarity and tempo. Quick applications of high-voltage impulses resulted in extraordinarily long-lasting discharges, an effect which suggested that electrical power could be withdrawn from the very earth. If true, this discovery could liberate humanity from its dependence on the fuel cartels. He was positively enthralled. This energy could be obtained anywhere, everywhere. He would imitate nature. The release of lightning was initiated by a single groundward stroke. The resulting uprush of current lasted for longer time periods, a leakage of extra power from the subterranean reservoir. He too would stimulate the earth with special and quick impulses, deriving greater energy from the uprushing currents. The device would effectively act as a huge pump, priming the underground reserves of absorbed electrical energy.